Hello and meow, listeners to the Everything is Fine, Nothing is Ruined podcast. I'm your guest host this week, Rum Tum Tugger, here to talk to you about everyone's favorite West End play, Cats.
Cats?
Joining me is, of course, regular host Tristan.
Yeah, it's me, regular host Tristan. I have so many feelings about this. Okay, so Rum Tum Tugger, welcome to the show. Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you for having me.
Okay, yeah, great. Cool, so you're on Cats. What's that like?
Oh, I'm not on Cats. I am a cat.
Oh, so what's it like being on the Broadway musical Cats as a cat?
Oh, it's a fun time. I get to hang out with my friends Skimble Shanks and Jenny Annie Dots and Monkastrap.
I hate these names. That's good. I'm glad you're hanging out and having fun with your friends and singing that one good song, The Feelings. Yeah, how's that go for you anyway?
It's great. They give me all the fish and milk I want.
Like at the same time or separately?
Yeah, one bowl fish, one bowl milk.
Oh, that just sounds nasty. But I guess you're a cat, so I guess it doesn't really matter to you because you're a cat. So, you know what? Enjoy your fish and milk, Rum Tum Tugger. Just out of curiosity, how are you with, like, stealing things?
Well, I'm a cat, so I don't really believe in ownership to begin with.
Oh, yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, that's true. Yep. Cats don't give a crap about that stuff. That makes sense. Well, okay. How are you at protecting the main streets?
Well, I poop in the streets.
That's close enough. Okay, cool. How are you with the mafia?
I don't know what a mafia is.
Okay, well, we'll get there. I don't know. Like, okay, in the play Cats, there's a faction of cats, I think there's two factions, and I think they do kind of like want to like they're of two different worlds kind of thing, sort of. Do you know about that? Like, what's going on there?
First, I'm gonna have to break character. I don't know squat about cats. I'm gonna be honest.
I thought you were a big Cats fan, Hassan / Rum Tum Tugger.
Nope. I'll give you. I've never seen it. I know very little about it.
Not even the 2019 movie.
No,
the hit movie
not.
Cats.
I'll be honest. I like musicals, but I'm not an Andrew Lloyd Webber fan. I'm not into his style.
Webber's all right, but I agree with you. He's not like the best. Like I can enjoy, a couple of his. Again, Feelings is a good song. That's kind of where my knowledge of Cats begins and ends. I know there's like two factions.
I've never actually heard the full thing. I feel like I've only ever heard about 15 seconds of it that everything parodies, and that's it.
Luckily, Hassan, you don't got to worry about that at all, because we're not really here to talk about Cats the musical.
Oh, okay, great. Well, podcast over. Tell people where to find us.
I have a thing that I was going to do besides Cats the musical. Like I wasn't going to do Cats the musical. I have an actual topic. We should do.
Okay, all right.
We have an hour to kill, so like.
Fine, if you insist. Let's hear about your thing that's not Cats related.
Well, it is Cats related, actually. So you're luck.
You're just a liar. I got it. Well, let's hear about why you love Cats.
No, we're here to talk about Catwoman. Specifically, the 2002's Catwoman of East End, as it's colloquially referred to as.
No, it's called East Enders.
It's not that. It's also not that. Well, actually, it sort of is, in a way.
No, it definitely is not.
Well, if you take the less posh sections of the East End of London and put those all in Gotham City, you have the East End of Gotham City, which includes, well, just in general, the East End, as they refer to as. Also, a place called Alleytown,
that's a bad name because like cities don't really have alleys anymore. So,
Well, how so? Because there's still a lot of alleys.
nah, they mostly designed out alleys these days. You actually surprisingly don't find many alleys in major cities anymore.
Huh? Wasn't aware of that.
Yeah,
Well,
it's actually a big problem about New York. There's like I think only 6 alleys left or something, so it makes a lot of like
weird.
New York filming difficult because it's like, oh, everyone thinks there should be a bunch of alleys, and there's not.
So there's like only 6
You
alleys.
just
in the
end
entire-
up reusing the same locations over and over.
To be fair, those alleys all kind of look alike, so yeah. Well, okay, that's fascinating. I did not know that. That is incredibly interesting. I gotta look that up at some point because yeah. Well, to be frank with Gotham is referred to as kind of like the oldest city. It is essentially a city like totally devoid of time and space because Gotham equally is as big as New York City and possibly bigger. I don't know. So, especially when we bring in many more of the neighborhoods that have been created since 2000 onward, with especially paying attention to Alleytown. In our case, but I know that like if you look at like the map of Gotham in like let's say Gotham like Arkham Knights, that one's like, oh, okay, that's what it should be. But if you look at the comic map for Gotham, there's no good like map for it except for the one that Scott Snyder did back when he did like the Court of Owls stuff, and that was like old 1800s Gotham, and then it expanded out of there. So Gotham as a city is really weird because it seems to like attach pieces of itself to different things. Like it stretches.
Yeah, I mean, it's always the problem with fictional cities is you're always going to run up against reality and go, so where exactly is this even located in the country? And it's like,
yeah.
And how big exactly is it?
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Because like it could be anywhere. It could be any size. Who knows? And like again, the idea is like, it should be about as big as New York, but whatever. But anyway, so East End. So Catwoman, who we all know and love as the jewel thief Batman villain, she had a pretty long-running series in the 90s. Just Catwoman, of course. And she's had a couple like other ones besides that beforehand. Just nothing really too major. But in the 90s, it ran for, I want to say 93 issues. Something like that. And it was the Catwoman costume where she's like totally decked out in purple. The cat ears, the tail, big teased hair. Skin tight, like really cheesecakey kind of looking costume. So out of that, after that run kind of ended, they took like, I think 3 years off, two or 3 years, to retool Catwoman. And along comes Ed Brubaker and Darwin Cook, along with Mike Allred, sort of doing inks and backup art. And they recreate Catwoman to do Catwoman of East End. Now, I'm a huge fan of Darwin Cook. I'm also a equally as big fan of Ed Brubaker because I love crime books. I love crime stories. There's nothing I enjoy more than when a book or a comic or anything really is about like crime families trying to do crime things and not get caught by the cops or whatever. This is a bit of a different one because Ed Brubaker, when he starts doing his career in like superhero comics, he kind of focuses more on taking these characters that are maybe just a little too big for life and bringing them back down to earth. And
boring. No, give me Eartha Kitt, Catwoman. You're just going, darling.
I mean, you can assign that voice to her if you want to, but not in this case. Yeah, I agree. I like that. I love Eartha Kitt's Catwoman. That is a great Catwoman. And every one of them that came after that in the 66 show did a really good job, basically mimicking Eartha Kitt. But this is not that. So, like I said, Brubaker has a storied career of going in and kind of like reworking a superhero, bringing back down a little bit, or just doing something interesting with them in general, because he tends to focus more on the superheroes or characters that are already grounded in reality. People like Catwoman, Batman, and the Marvel side of things. Ed Brubaker has a legendary run on Daredevil, in which he really changed the game. So, like I said, they retell this character. There's a scene in the first issue where she tosses away the purple catsuit with the tail and the silly ears and that kind of stuff. And she puts on this new thing, which is more utilitarian. It's just an all black leather outfit with like combat boots. Well, maybe motorcycle boots, actually, more so. Leather gloves, a big thick whip, and then like a cowl with like goggles that she puts on as well. Kind of lending herself to be more like Batman, but like a female version of Batman in a way. But the idea is, as much as they wanted her to kind of like take that place of like Batman, but a girl, Ed Brubaker and Darren Cook had other ideas, because that may have been what DC, the executives there, were thinking, but eventually did a few things differently.
They made her an actual cat.
No. That'd be interesting, though.
Yeah.
I mean, there was an episode of Batman, the animated series, where she does transform into a cat.
I don't remember that one.
Oh, really?
I haven't watched that show in a very long time.
Just such a good show. But, like, yeah, I guess she doesn't transform into a cat. They kind of, like, do, like, a splicey, hybrid-y thing and make her half cat, half person. And then Batman's got to change her back, and it's a whole rigmarole. Yeah. Yeah, so, this new Catwoman, basically the idea is to, like I said, make her Batman, but a girl. But like I said, they had a bit of a different idea, because Catwoman is still, as much as she's trying to follow Batman's role, but for the East End here, she's still Catwoman. Catwoman's whole thing is that, yeah, she's a thief. But, she's not afraid to get kind of rough around the edges and beat some guys up. And she's tumbled with Batman quite a few times and gotten away a lot of those times. And in the 90s, because they wanted to keep some of the skills she learned in the 90s, including wielding a large machine gun and gunning people down, they wanted to keep that rougher edge to her. So when Catwoman does things, when she runs around and like beats guys up, which is what she does now, she's less of a thief and more of a hero, sort of. And they wanted to kind of make her into like a proper anti-hero, because you know how like anti-heroes in like Marvel and DC, like they tend to be like your Punishers, or they tend to be your I mean, Daredevil's kind of an anti-hero himself, but they tend to be like Punisher or like Azrael, or guys that run around and kill people. Moon Knight kills people all the time. This kind of stuff.
I argue most of those guys are just straight up villains rather than anti-heroes.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. Punisher, especially recently, has been like, no, this guy's a villain. Like, he's kind of inspired a lot of fascists, and like, yeah, I know
he's inspired a lot of cool cops. What are you talking about?
A lot of cool cops love the Punisher logo. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Catwoman, I think, is an actual proper anti-hero, because what she is taking the ideas of Batman, but applying her own mean streets personality to them. Because Catwoman's history is basically checkered, where she was a prostitute, and she eventually learned how to steal things, and she got good at gymnastics, all these things. And eventually, she learned like how to fight from Ted Grant, aka Wildcat. So, yeah.
Died, had the spirit of the cat put inside her, so she came back to life, played basketball with those kids.
No. No. No, she did not.
It's all
no.
canon.
No.
It's in the movies.
It's in that really bad... No. Anyway, so in comes, like this brand new take on Catwoman. And the idea is she's going to be meaner than Batman typically would be, in that she's going to be a little more active in taking down crime, whereas Batman will be more investigative and doing these things to kind of like bring people to justice. Catwoman's all about that street justice. So when she swings down and like takes on like a crime ring, she's not there to just kind of like figure out who hurt this guy and bring this one person to justice. She doesn't care about that. She's going to swing down, like, that guy killed that person's wife or husband or whatever. So I'm going to break his femoral his femur in half and cause him internal bleeding. And I'm going to just let him lay there and enjoy being broken as shit. And the rest of his friends are going to watch me do this, and then I'm going to beat their asses too. Because fuck them. Yeah, Catwoman's mean.
Batman, you should probably stop this.
Well, Catman. Well, Catman, I'm sure was fine with this, but Batman is kind of sanctions this because he doesn't really have a lot of chance to get into East End because he's too busy with the rest of Gotham.
Yes, I think that's okay, Batman.
Yeah. Oh, they don't really need him. It's
fine. Just being like, well, I can't get there, so I'll just let her cripple all these people is...
Yeah.
No, okay, Batman.
Yeah, she's also kind of claimed it as her own. Like, she just straight up is like, hey, nobody can touch East End. This is my territory. Fuck all y'all. I'll fight you. And just straight up is like, this is the case. Now, this book is fantastic. I have to say that. Right out of the gate. This run is legendary in not just reinventing the character, but also giving us just a really good series of crime stories. Like I said, I'm a sucker for them, but, Ed Brubaker did such a good job in making this feel like its own thing and making Catwoman kind of like a more interesting part, because what they have done is they essentially have made her... It's like reading a superhero book with the cadence of, like, the first act of Godfather. Where, there's a lot of, like, walking around town and talking to people and getting to know the locals of an area and getting to see how people live. But then, like, the crime happens and then it's like, okay, then it's explosive. That kind of stuff. So, it's got that sort of feel to it where it's a little slower paced, but then when things happen, it really pops off. And this comic has a lot of really good, like, side characters to it too. Like the rounding cast, like surrounding Catwoman, is like, first off, Leslie Tompkins, notably like Batman's physician, running the Tompkins Clinic. I think her last name is Wade, but Holly Wade, I'm going to say, who is Selena Kyle, Catwoman, her previous like friend, who she hasn't talked to in a while. Holly is a notable junkie from she's from the 90s, junkies, drug use, all this stuff.
Let me guess, they were probably calling it like angel dust or something that she's on.
I mean, isn't angel dust a real thing?
Yeah, but like they were going for a name like that, I assume, because that was all the rage. And the 90s was, ooh, we need the drug to have a, it sounds, dangerous name.
Fair. I mean, that was during the whole Nancy Reagan war on drugs thing, so sure. But I don't know what it was back in the 90s, but I know for a fact in the year 2002, it is just straight up heroin.
All right.
Yeah.
A real man's drug.
Man's drug.
Brother.
Yeah. So, yeah, Holly's part of this. She's really good. She kind of becomes Catwoman's, Catwoman hires her to do a lot of, street work and, kind of keep her eyes out on certain things and then give her a call. This is also just around the time when cell phones became a commonplace thing. So
I don't know. I'd say they were commonplace 2002. Certainly,
yeah,
easily available.
Yep.
That'd be Blackberries. Yeah, Blackberry should have been out by then.
BlackBerry was like 2003, 2004, I think it was something like that. Yeah, but like these, like they notably have like Motorola's or like Nokia like brick phones.
Yeah.
So yeah. So yeah, Holly's running around doing things and like kind of like keeping an eye on the streets for Catwoman, and then calling her when something's going down so she can go and try and stop it. And then there's also Slam Bradley, because Catwoman is not very good at the detective stuff. But it's a good thing that one of her friends is a detective, notably Slam Bradley, who is a man in his like 50s, let's say. Kind of that washed-up detective who, you know, probably shouldn't be doing it anymore, but he's really good at it, and he needs the money, you know. And he's just sick of like taking pictures of like near divorcee couples and getting them in trouble. He's just like, you know.
No, I got it. He's the guy from Heavy Rain. Understood.
Yeah, but like not a murderer. So yeah, it's a good way to put it. Yeah. So those three characters basically are our surrounding cast. Holly has a girlfriend named Karan, spelled Karon, which I thought was Karen, but then I looked it up. It's like, oh, it's Karan. It's like a weird spelling
Greek or something. I don't know.
Greek or I don't know. We're focusing a lot more on these side characters in this comic because Catwoman is in this book, you know, plenty. But again, the purpose of these stories is to kind of tell a more grounded, like street level story where the people matter, and you get to see a lot more of the like gritty details of life. And the first 6 issues don't do a great job of popping that off, unfortunately. Even though these are wonderful 6 issues, this is where Darwin Cook gets his main thing. Gets the ball rolling, the world running on its own 2 legs. And we have Catwoman, who is in therapy at Leslie Tompkins' clinic. And we have basically like her just kind of like coming to terms with like not being Catwoman anymore. She wants to quit, is her whole thing. And she just kind of like plays it all back in her hand. It's like, I don't want to do Catwoman because like Red Claw is out there. And then, like, all these other people are trying to murder me, and I'm done with the crime syndicates and the people who are always in trouble and people troubling me. And you know, it's just a huge hassle. So she goes out for a run and just kind of like just sees if she's still got it, because she hasn't really done the gymnastics like parkour thing for some time.
Don't worry, girl. It's a comic book. You never lose that stuff.
You're correct. Yeah, there's a great scene where she's kind of like just explodes out into the panel, basically like immediately jumping from building to building. He's like, hardly any sleep last night either. Like, just what I needed was some exercise. Great, cool. And she's just like, yeah, just like got back into it right away. Is super into running on top of rooftops, all this stuff. And then she comes across Batman trying to take down some gang members. And she helps him. Oh, he's trying to take down the Riddler, specifically. And she helps him by, like, throwing a brick at one of the gang members and knocking him out. And,
that's not okay.
Well, it's a brick from the top of the rooftop as well. And if anybody has seen Home Alone 2, and you go like, oh, God, like, oh, when Kevin McAllister throws that brick and hits Marv in the face, he probably should have died. Yeah. Should have, but again, we're cartoon logic at this point. Because like she's on like a 6 or 7 story building, and she hurls this thing at this guy.
But why is there just a loose brick up there?
Shot like Gotham, like, you know, shoddy masonry kind of stuff.
All
It
right.
happens.
Sure.
Yeah. So she hurls this at the guy. Batman looks up. He's like, "Huh, loose brick. Came from out of nowhere. I'm in the East End." Oh yeah, okay. So he goes to talk to like Selena. Goes to talk to Selena, and eventually they kind of like patch things up a little bit. And this is after she gets the new costume. And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I see what you're doing now. Good luck. East End is yours. Protect it as you will. Go for it. And that's essentially issue 1, where she also hires on Holly. And it starts off also with like a bit of a, like the main plot from here is that there's a guy going around murdering prostitutes. So, you know, we got that happening. And as passe as that plot line is nowadays, back in 2002, this was fairly, you know, this is a fairly acceptable plotline back then. I think it's still in the realm of acceptability nowadays. Just kind of depends how it's done. I find that this plotline is, like, despite the fact that, you know, we have a guy killing prostitutes, this is pretty tastefully done because of how this goes down. So Catwoman kind of starts investigating these murders, and we get a lot more shots of like just her running across rooftops and like hopping onto trains and that kind of stuff. The cool thing with Darwin Cook's art in this is that his paneling is super solid, where he will do like just very quick small panels, like chopped up to like kind of show you how the action is flowing. I really like what he's done here, and we don't see a lot of this stuff anymore. Like you can kind of tell that he's coming from the same school as like Fred Quitely in terms of panel work, as well as David Gibbons from like the Watchmen comics. So get a lot of that stuff happening. Also, he's really good at like the way he uses text and fonts to kind of like cast shadows on things and how things kind of move, and like the choices of the world in terms of like the way, like the heavy inks and the way fonts look. It's beautiful book. Anyway, this whole thing kind of concludes with like Catwoman essentially finds this guy who is more or less Clayface, but probably has some memory problems, has been killing women. And she...
What do you mean is more or less Clayface? Yeah, there is or isn't Clayface.
Well, so here's the thing. We're at a point in comics. So most people who have experienced what Clayface is like is they're kind of coming from like the Batman the Animated Series, like TV show. In season 4 of that series, where it was like the new Batman and Robin Adventures, or the New Adventures of Batman and Robin, it was whatever, yeah. Or no, it was New Batman Adventures. That's what it was. It doesn't matter. But anyway, once we come off that, there's a great Clayface story there in which Robin encounters a girl who turns out to be a piece of Clayface, but like she thinks it's kind of about child abuse and trying to save victims and that kind of stuff, and trying to stop victims of child abuse from experiencing that further. But the idea is that she's actually a piece of Clayface and she can't help what she does. It's kind of like that in this story. And yeah, you end up getting this story where like she's encountering this guy who is going to bars, picking up women, hiring prostitutes, that kind of stuff. And then this is just this dark, weird side of him takes over and kills the girls. And it's more so because like, yeah, he's a piece of Clayface, but in the comics, Clayface is such an ill-defined character. Because let me tell you, the Clayface that you're thinking of is not the Clayface from the comics, but it also is the Clayface from the comics. Clayface has such a weird history as a character. He actually started off just as a guy who could just change his face. That's it. Like, changes his face and, like, his hair and some of his appearance. Like, there was nothing more than that to the character.
I say, Clayface is a very bad name for a character who can just change his face. As if, like, that Because, like, yeah, you can, like, shift Clay around, but that's not how you think about Clay.
Not quite,
right?
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Play-Doh face, now that makes sense. But Clay face, Clay is, it's like, no, you make the thing and then you cast it.
Exactly, yeah. Which is, I mean, like, does it make more sense now he's just like a big clay monster? I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah, so the thing with this whole storyline is, like I said, it kind of sets up the feel of this book, because Catwoman is taking down like Batman level villains occasionally, mostly is focusing on the smaller ones. So like this Clayface is kind of an offshoot of the original one. So what you kind of have here is a retake on what Clayface from the 70s could have become into. Even if this character is not quite Clayface, his whole shtick is, he's basically Clayface. And then also has a bit of like the animated series Clayface to him. Now, eventually, after like issue 4, I think it is, like it's only 4 issues where Darwin Cook is on the whole thing, because he eventually went off to do other things during this time. They changed up the artist, and at this point, it was Brad Ratter and Cameron Stewart, as far as the art team goes. Cameron Stewart, keep that name in mind because we'll come back to him. But Brad Ratter is the second artist coming in, and throughout most of this book's life, and we're only focusing on the first 37 issues of this book, 37 issues, because, well, after a certain point, it stops being Ed Brubaker's thing, and I kind of don't care about it after that at that point. So
that's when it finally becomes musical and things get good.
No, it gets weirder. It gets really, really, really weird.
That still sounds like Cast a Musical.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, so like it's at this point where things kind of took a turn for the worse. But I digress, especially the art department. Yeah, so Brad Ratter is coming in, kind of filling in Darwin Cook's shoes. He's got the same chops. The line work is still the same. It looks mostly like Darwin Cook's work, but like changed, like just different enough to be like, oh, this is a different artist, but the same kind of like feel to it. Has that like Batman animated series vibe to it all. Like Darwin Cook always had that, like that Bruce Timm style to his work. Probably sans the extremely horny stuff. Although he probably did draw some.
Needs it, is what you're saying. I got you.
Yeah, that's right. But Brad Ratter coming in to fill Darwin Cook's shoes is good because like his work is very classic. Because whereas Darwin Cook is kind of like Darwin Cook has that love for classic comics and that classic style of comic from like the 50s and like 60s. Brad Ratter actually is pulling that off. So things are more simplified. Even the colors are more simplified to match. There's not a lot of shading here. They do that through the inking. And we start off with like getting more into just the pure crime stories. Here's Catwoman. She's like, visiting a kid who's on life support who was shot during a mob bust. And she's trying to get like revenge for him and all this stuff. And like the way this book starts flowing now is about her working with her team to take down smaller little crime syndicates within East End and get the word out, hey, this is my town. I own this place. You step in, you do crime, you piss me off, I'm coming for you. And time again, people think like, oh, it's just Catwoman, who cares? So it's a bit of a broken record in some places like that, but it's kind of a good thing because like Catwoman's frustration with all this is quite palpable as she does more and more in this world. she starts to be like, just, God damn it, why will they not listen to me? I keep breaking their necks. I keep busting their asses, sending them to jail, like destroying their shipments and their drugs and like messing up their rackets. And they still are like, haha, that's cute to me. So that's kind of at the point where she's at when Brad Ratner takes over. And as far as art goes. And we start getting a lot more of the, like I said, just really staying at the street level of things, getting to see like people doing stuff in the background, life happening around Selena Kyle. The best thing I can really say to kind of like get the vibe of this story is that they kind of gave Selena Kyle and Catwoman the vibe of like a Spider-Man comic at this point, with like the more of like a harder edge to it.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
Yeah, I'd say it is. It's weird because like, you know how like Spider-Man, a big part of Spider-Man books is like, hey, he's
murdering children.
Well, I mean, like we never know. We never found out what happened to Spider Baby, so who knows? She could be anywhere. Anyway. No. So, like, you know how Spider-Man has, like, that vibe of, like, you know, he's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He goes down, hangs out with people sometimes, talks to them, gets to know their ins and outs, talks about life a little bit. That's essentially the vibe that Catwoman of the East End has, where she's coming down to people and trying to look at things from a very like ground level perspective and go like, okay, you know, she can't do the friendly neighborhood thing, but she can at least be there to enact vengeance upon things and know why. So she tries sometimes to pull off the Batman thing where she'll be like, oh, like you did this. Like she'll have like a guy tied up. And he's like, oh yeah. She'll be like, you don't want I tied you up, right? He's like, you know, this is your territory. He's like, no, it's because you shot this kid yesterday, and now his mother is getting really mad at you, and I'm going to basically you know, cut your pinkies off and give them to her as a gift. So
I don't
enjoy.
think the mother wants that.
Yeah. Unless you tell, yeah, the idea
Catwoman, I'm pretty sure the mother's just gonna be like, Dad, look, I want that guy to be punished, but don't give me the pinkies, you weirdo. What am I supposed to do with these?
You know,
Throw
pinky
them
collection.
in the garbage?
It's for her pinky collection, Hassan.
People don't have those.
What, really?
Yeah.
I have one of those.
Well, that's a problem.
For me or for somebody else?
Oh, for you.
How is it
And
my
the
problem?
police. They're gonna talk to you. Don't worry.
Okay, cool. I'm sure they're very friendly. Anyway, yeah. So a lot of this is basically a lot of the good things with this book is that the issues are more one-off issues, so you can kind of like, it's a collected anthology right now. You can get the omnibus; it's out there. I'm going to track that down and get a copy of it at some point. It was just released as an omnibus back in 2016, so there's that. But back in the day, in 2002, when this book was coming out, one of the cool things about it is because each issue more or less is its own standalone story, it's a really easy book to jump into and just go through with. Like, you don't need to worry about it too much as far as, you know, as far as, like, kind of, like, knowing the history and the lore of this book. Even later on, when there's a little more of, like, a through line and a connected thread for certain story arcs, even then, it tries to keep you, like, very, like, divulged of, like, hey, don't worry about it. Just keep going and reading. It's all good. Because they focus more on that character-driven aspect of the stories and focusing more on, like I said, like Catwoman, Slam, Leslie, or Holly. And because they have these more like personality-driven stories as opposed to this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens, but because that happened over there, this affects this thing over here. Like, there's a little bit of that here or there, but this book is mostly about, let's just focus on one small piece of life at a time. Which is like, in issue 6 is a great thing where like Holly is just kind of like, she gets a blast in the past. She gets a chain email sent to her. That's just like, hey, get a pencil and paper to write your answers as you go along. This is an honest questionnaire, which will tell you a lot about your true self, kind of thing. Like one of those, you know? And it's like, put the following 5 animals in order of your preference. And then like, oh, what are the words associated to like these words and all that stuff. And she goes, and it's like 5 pages of her just figuring this shit out. And it's like going through it, and she goes like, "Oh shit, I got this." Like, "Oh man, like, oh, that's what I think about sex, huh? That's crazy." Like, "Oh, Catwoman's kind of like, okay, yeah."
God, Catwoman, you idiot! Those don't mean anything.
No, this is Holly, her sidekick.
Oh, sorry, Holly. Those are just bad BuzzFeed listicles.
Yeah. So like by the end of it, she's like, "Wait a second, this is a chain email." Fuck this. This sucks. And then she like walks out, and she's like drinking coffee, and like one of the word associations was like with coffee was drug, and all this stuff. And she's like, "Oh shit, I guess that's true." And she like puts it down and like walks away like with her coffee. And former junkie, right? So, former drug addict. So that's her whole shtick, and she goes out and on patrol for Catwoman because her whole thing is, like I said, gathering information from the street and telling her like the day-to-day workings of what's happening out there in the daytime, because Catwoman mostly works in the nighttime, you know, for obvious reasons. Black leather tends to stand out pretty much heavily in the daylight, so so we have like Holly meeting up with like Karan and all these people, and you get that slice of life. And like these issues where she's more focused are a lot of fun. Ed Brubaker does a really good job of writing Holly, I think. She is like, she's kind of got a big personality sort of character, but it's downplayed enough where like she, you know, is kind of a fun, spunky character, and she's young and hip and with it. But like the idea is like she's not so that she's not like cringy and unenjoyable, you know?
No, yeah, she's not all that. That was Amanda Bynes.
Oh, I guess so. Oh yeah, Amanda Bynes. Whatever she's doing these days.
I don't know about now, but I do believe that she had a drug problem, so...
Well, there we go.
Fits right in with this, which is why she was all that.
Hey!
Characters in Catwoman aren't.
Yeah, I guess so. That sucks. Too bad for her. Anyway. So, yeah, this is kind of like... This book goes more so into like the way Holly is in her past and this kind of stuff. At one point, she gets shot by some dirty cops, and Catwoman just beats the unholy hell out of them. The cool thing with depends on the definition of cool, I guess. But the way this arc ends up is that she ends up basically, you know how in like Batman Begins, the way he defeats Ra's al Ghul is that like he just lets him die on a train. Catwoman kind of does a thing in this arc very similar to the Dirty Cops, in that she sets up this huge plan where she basically like puts a bomb on the truck, on the police truck they're driving, with a bunch of like diamonds in it to go and give to like the handler of a mob boss. And she steals the diamonds while they're making the handoff, because she blows their truck up, steals the diamonds, and then steals the I think it was guns or drugs. It was drugs as well that the mob was going to give to the cops to seed out to the people. So she goes there, steals everything, and she fabricates evidence to make it look like the dirty cops that shot her friend planned this from the beginning. And you know, those cops were never heard from again.
Yeah, again, Batman, you should not be okay with this.
No, it's okay. It's
The things she's doing are not good.
It's indirect murder. It's okay.
It is not okay.
It's fine. Just it takes more gangbangers off the streets. It's fine.
That is absolutely very 2003, 2004.
Yeah, it
I will
really
give
is.
you that.
Yeah.
Post 9/11, 100%
Yes, it is.
believe that.
Yeah. Oh, also, I forgot the crooked cops frame Holly for the murder of one of the cops that they did themselves. They kill one of the cops like in retaliation because like the lieutenant is like the most crooked one of them all, and then like he just shoots his own like patrol officer, and it's a whole thing. Yeah, and then she needs the Holly to be cleared of her charges, that kind of stuff. Anyway, moving right along. Yeah, Catwoman starts working with like kind of like in the same way Batman does, because you know crooked cops in Gotham are like a dime a dozen. So obviously, you know, it's gonna happen. But she starts working with a few of the police officers that like actually are not going to do that kind of shit, and yeah, becomes a thing. It's not really like a staying point for this character though. So, like I said, they kind of want to like dip her toe into the Batman side of things, and then get out as soon as possible. That's the one weird thing with this character, and I kind of wish they dipped it a little more. Anyway, so let's start bringing this to a close. Some of the stuff that they said that is pretty unfortunate. Besides the fact that Cameron Stewart starts being on art, and Cameron Stewart is a fucking marvelous artist, by the way. He takes over from Brad Ratter, and Cameron Stewart is the guy who at first renders out Alleytown, which they've long since changed since 2002, 2003. Alleytown used to be essentially like this old like 1800s looking like early 1900s looking like village inside of Gotham City.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks really fucking good too.
And now they gentrified it. I got you.
Yeah, actually, that's yeah.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's where all the immigrants and everybody like that lives. And then now in like the current era of Gotham, Alleytown is just like a bunch of regular looking buildings. But these are like actually like they're apartment buildings with like steeped roofs and old style construction. And Cameron Stewart does a great job of like really rendering this part of Gotham. And Cameron Stewart is on the book for like the longest run of all of them. Well, until Ed Brubaker leaves, I should say. And yeah, I think that like that is the best the art gets in this book is Cameron Stewart. Even though I'm a huge Darwin Cook fan, Cameron Stewart nails this shit. Anyway, skip ahead a lot. Eventually, there's a bit where Catwoman's sister, Maggie Kyle, comes to Gotham with her husband because he got transferred. And to get back at Selena Catwoman for all the bullshit she's done in East End, Black Mask, who has been the perpetrator of all the crime across East End because he owns this first, she's stepping on his territory kind of thing. He basically gets Holly shot, gets Slam beat up and put in the hospital, and then kidnaps Maggie's husband, and then eventually Maggie as well. And then he basically, oh man, so he tortures Maggie's husband in front of Maggie to death. But before he dies, he cuts out her husband's tongue and feeds it to Maggie while he's still alive.
unnecessary.
Extremely. Black Mask is super fucked up. Yeah, he goes away for quite some time, but he then eventually comes back around like issue 30 plus, whatever. But like to cap this all off, like Catwoman kicks him in a window and kills him, like out of a high rise. And then it comes back, but like it's kind of like the point of like there's freaks in Gotham always come back. There's no staying dead for anybody. It's a bit of a wicked nod towards the audience of like, hey, we know, like we just wanted to keep using this character, this kind of thing. Yeah. So the way these issues go, like because all that happens, there's a really, really good like 4-issue run where they're trying to tie up loose ends, and they have a new artist come in. I forget his name, Gene Polito, I think it is. Javier Polito. Come in to kind of like do these next 4 issues just for the time being, and like just really focus each issue on the pain and suffering these characters have gone through because of Black Mask and how they heal. And it's like Catwoman and Slam get together and they start sleeping together, but like Slam is secretly in love with Catwoman anyway, so he kind of wants this, but she doesn't really, like she knows he's in love with her, but she doesn't really care. It's like she's using him, and it's just the whole thing. And then you get like Holly, who's like just catatonic and trying, like almost going back into drugs, but like she's just trying to hold on every step of the way. And like Karan is just trying to help her out. And then like Maggie Kyle over here is in a psychiatric ward, and Catwoman can't help but have a dream every night about her sister getting better. But then she wakes up and the reality is she's never going to get better. It's a wild series of issues, and it's such a well-written set of just like, let's focus on the hurt and the pain these characters are feeling and do it properly. And I gotta say, they're powerful. Even though the art is kind of like, it's a little off here or there. Javier Polito, great artist, but a lot more cartoony than the other 2 have been so far, or the 3 have been so far. So it gets to a point where you're like, I'm not too big in the art, but like it really does help tell the story in a lot of the ways. So yeah, I think that like these like issues up until like I think it's like from 10 onward. No, it's like 16 onward, 16 to 20 are really like the selling point of what this comic eventually becomes. Because after that, we have issue like 1920, where Catwoman takes Holly on a road trip. Well, yeah, starts out with a road trip. Eventually ends up on a train, just across the United States, going to different cities and like talking to people and hanging out with other superheroes and trying to like get Catwoman that like little bit of like exposure to the superheroing community, because you know superheroes are like, oh, Catwoman turned face, so.
A road trip seems like a weird way to do this.
Yeah, sort of. The purpose of the road trip is more so to kind of like her and Holly haven't talked for months after the whole thing with like Black Mask. So she wants to basically like rekindle their friendship. And also she wants to like kind of teach Holly a few things. And like the first thing they do is they go to Keystone City, and it's Keystone. It's one of the places. It's one of the many cities where where superheroes hang out, and they go there, and they meet up with Ted Grant, and Ted immediately starts teaching Holly how to box and kickbox and stuff. And here's some like really good like 2 or 3 issues of her hanging out with Ted Grant, getting her ass beat.
Somebody should probably tell Ted not everybody just wants to become his protege in boxing.
Yeah, well, he doesn't believe that. Eventually, she does actually hit him, and like lands a shot on him and that kind of stuff. So like, and like not a sucker punch. Yeah, so like it's a good series of issues. This is where the problematic stuff comes in, though, because like I said, like not everything. Post 9/11 comics and writing and TV were weird. They run into a group of, they say Egyptians. However, yeah, they say Egyptians, but definitely kind of channeling that American jingoism, where they run into a gang of assassins and ninjas. I guess they call them ninjas, but they're Egyptian ninjas with like scarves over their faces and turbans on, and a lot of like they don't wear shoes. And they all have scimitars.
Okay.
Yeah, a little weird.
That's silly.
It's very silly. It's very silly. This is the silliest part of the comic. This is the stuff that I don't like, because this breaks the feel of it, because at some point they go like, yeah, let's have some fun with this. And Catwoman essentially gets involved in this cult of Betty Ma. That's what they're called. And the purpose behind this is that the leader of the cult wants to marry Catwoman because she got cursed by one of their idols, and is set to be the one to marry this person to rejoin the powers of the cult together with... It's a really stupid fucking plot line. It honestly goes nowhere, and it doesn't matter. And the only way that it actually has anything to do with anything is that the cult does show up to save Catwoman at some point when she's getting her ass kicked by Zeiss. Who... Zeiss is a character who I don't really want to talk about. He's essentially like the worst, stupidest villain. He's a guy from Switzerland who has like essentially like powerful Nazi genes in him. And
no, they make glasses. I know Zeiss.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, actually, but not in this way. He has goggles that hits his vision, and he has like Nazi Superman vibes. Like literally, he's like super strong and agile and that kind of stuff. He fought Batman to a standstill at one point, and now he's a Catwoman villain because like they don't want to use him for anything else because he actually just generally sucks. He's a dumb, shitty villain. They should never use him. But he shows up in this book multiple times, so bit of a black spot, along with the casual anti-Middle East, sentiment in this book. It's they don't thankfully go into that stuff too much with the post 9/11 crap, but it's still there. To round this off, at some point they change artists yet again, and this is the one real bad one. So far they kept kind of a similar style to everything. So like Darwin Cook, Brad Ratter, Cameron Stewart, and I can't remember the other guy's name. Shit. They
Rum Tum Tugger.
Rum Tum Tugger. Javier Polito. There we go. The art has been stellar. Issue 25 comes along to basically ruin that. So they hire a guy named Paul Galassi and Jimmy Palmiotti, which I like Jimmy Palmiotti, but he's on inks in this case. And Paul Galassi is just... Man, so, okay. Paul Galassi is one of those artists where when people discuss the worst comic artists of all time, and we always bring up, like, Rob Liefeld and that kind of stuff, Paul Galassi should be in the exact same conversation.
I don't know that Rob Liefeld's the worst. He's
not.
Good,
He definitely is not the worst. No, that's the thing. I think there are worse artists than Rob Liefeld, and I will say Paul Galassi is probably in this factor. I think that Rob Liefeld is a bad artist, but he's not like the world's worst artist ever. He was big for a reason. He's not a great artist, but he got the job done. Paul Galassi, he's kind of... He draws faces like he doesn't know what a face looks like. Like, he has the idea of what a face
All
could
right.
be.
I mean, I kind of like that. That actually sounds kind of interesting.
It's not, unfortunately. It's just ugly as hell. He also tries to draw. He also tries to use like celebrity faces, but fails at using celebrity faces.
That I'm not into.
Yeah, same. So like, I don't like it. I don't like it when it's done well. That's the thing. Like for instance, he tries to draw Slam Bradley looking like Nathan Fillion. And occasionally it's like, okay, yeah, it's not Nathan Fillion. But for the most part, he does not look like Nathan Fillion. And like, when he has to draw him in different angles, he is either older and looks different. It's bad. It's just bad. He doesn't know how to draw a face. It's very clear that in his mind, he cast, I can't remember her name, the lady who played Trinity in the Matrix movies, as Catwoman. So whenever he's drawing Selena Kyle's face, it's just her face. But then, like, the eyes are sometimes too big, and he can't draw anybody from the side. Like, they have weird jutting jaws. It's strange, man. It's strange. So, yeah. Ed Brubaker's run on this book is really good. Few black spots, notably the final artist, Paul Gulacy. They get to do this bit of art. Is one of those big black spots for me. So, like I said, this is one of the black spots, but for the most part, these stories are really good. Like, Catwoman trying on the shoes of a superhero kind of stories. So, I would for sure recommend like checking out this. Well, the omnibus is out there somewhere, so check out the omnibus for Catwoman of East End. And give that a go, because at least the first, 20 issues are just beautiful, solid work. Like, could not say anything better about them. Eventually, unfortunately, in this, very character-driven story, does get, it gets kind of, executive decisioned a bit. And you can kind of tell to have more of an overarching plot line and all of these things. God, I'm looking at a panel where Paul Gulacy has drawn the penguin without shoes, and it is the worst thing in the world. Anyway,
I'm sure there are people who will pay for penguin feet pics. So
yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if they want these though. You think that Rob Liefeld can't draw feet? Paul Gulacy cannot draw feet to save his life. Anyway, so that's the thing. So I find that this book gets a little executive decision from DC at some point to have more of an overarching plot line and focus less on the characters. And at some point it gets roped into multiple comic book event bullshit. So yay. With Batman War Games. So that's a thing, which, hey, War Games is actually a pretty good storyline. But I mean, it means that there are 3 issues of Catwoman where they have her in the War Games scenario, and it sucks real bad.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Oh, also, Paul Gulacy, I should point this out. Paul Gulacy's main thing is he's essentially a porn artist. So
look, so was the dude who did Lilo and Stitch, and
was
that
he?
Worked out.
Weird.
That dude does very raunchy art.
Fair enough. But Paul Gulacy his whole thing is kind of focusing on pinup models from the 50s and 60s and that kind of stuff, and doing art kind of the Frank Frazetta way, but not as good as Frank Frazetta in any semblance of the matter. So there's an issue 31, there it is, where basically this is kind of the culmination of everything he's working towards as an artist on Catwoman, where Catwoman is never in anything even close to regarding as clothed. He's a cheesecake artist through and through. And if he has a chance, in every issue he has drawn Catwoman naked. Which, yeah, Darwin Cook kind of set a precedent where, he has a scene where she's changing into her costume, and, you get a shot from her from the back in the nude. It's like in the first issue, and then like it appears like one more time, like in issue 9 when like Ratter is taken on, and then later on it comes up like here or there. But it's the idea is that it's not supposed to be a cheesecake book. But this guy only draws cheesecake. This guy only draws nudity. So in this issue where she's like captured by the cult of the Betty Ma, and she is, running around in like a flimsy toga with like no underwear, well, very small underwear on, and then like she gets put into her wedding dress, which is basically like a black bra and like tassels, to just cover things. It's oof. Yeah, the art is not the best. This though all culminates after this whole thing where like bad art, and like we have there is one more artist that comes in, which is Phil Olmos, I think his name is. Yeah, Diego Olmos, sorry. Diego Olmos is kind of a breath of fresh air after Paul Galassi. This guy knows how to draw. Holy shit, thank God. And he's on for like one issue. And it's basically kind of like a like a perspective issue where like it's from the perspective of like these killers who Catwoman takes down. Then it's also from Catwoman's perspective. Like it does like different little like mini chapters inside the issue. It's really good. But then like this all culminates at the very, very end with an issue that is named after all the like executive decisions and making Brubaker put more of an arc into Catwoman and all these things. He writes a final issue, and he calls it character driven. And
the name of the chapter?
The name of the chapter, yes, is called character driven. It's his final issue in Catwoman.
Bad name, but okay.
Well, yeah, I agree. If it wasn't a huge dig into DC, like just really like thumbing the eyeball, like fuck you guys, because this is the last time he works with DC, if I recall. Well, I'm actually not sure, but I think he may have written some Batman later on. But he didn't like this. Like I know that for a fact. That what they did here, like he left the book willingly. He didn't want to leave, but they kept trying to make decisions for him on the character. And it's pretty clear that was the case because like it's like this book's writing is great and then it drops off pretty heavily. So at this point though, with this issue called Character Driven, this is Paul Galassi at his worst as an artist, at least as far as I've seen anyway for this book. But that doesn't matter because like the stuff that Brubaker is writing into this issue is just going, fuck you, DC. You could have had me for a lot longer, and I had all these things I had planned out to do with these characters, but you kept telling me what to do, and I didn't like that, so I'm going to do my own thing and then get the hell out of here. And this issue is basically a further, just, how can I put this? It's a further kind of driving home on the point of what he was trying to do with Catwoman, which was like put her on the ground level, make sure she is, talking to people, tell the stories of like real life and criminals and that kind of stuff, and just really focus on what a crime book should be. But, we get this final combination of that stuff where he like takes down somebody who is like beating his fiance and all this stuff, and she kind of like talks to the fiance, and she says these really mean things to her, like just kind of like calls her like a money grubbing idiot and all this stuff, and it's mean spirited, and she runs away, like flips off a building and that kind of stuff, and it's just like, I shouldn't have said that. God damn it. And she's like, I'm just blowing off steam. Yeah. This book kind of like ends up in that territory where like It's just a big final, like, fuck you to DC at the very, very end of it all. And I can kind of appreciate that, especially at the time, because, like, DC, even, like, nowadays, they're better at running their business and, like, letting the artists and writers do what they need to tell a good story. But there still are so many things that they are doing, especially back then, that were just kind of hurting that aspect. Like I said, the multiple issues and dragging other books into the same event that nobody really cared about is something DC does a lot now, especially these days. Like even currently, we're going through a like 3 or 4 month long event. I think it's only 2 months, but it's a 2 month long event called Nightfall or Nightmare. It's basically all of the books have stopped at DC, and now they're just kind of telling stories about like these superheroes having nightmares, and it's just
It's neat, I guess.
it's not a bad idea, but it's poorly executed, and they also did this back in like 2000 or 2020, or no, in 2021, where they did like the future DC stuff, where it was like a year later, and now everything is cyberpunk, and it's just like, what happened? Why would you do? But these were these were very quick, like 3-issue stories for each one of these books, and it was like every book they just retooled this way, and nobody liked it. There was like one good idea, which was like Batman on the Run, and that was it. And then also Jace Fox as Batman. Yeah, so like Bruce Wayne was on the run as Batman, and Jace Fox as Batman doing his own thing. That carried over into its own book. People like that for some reason. I'm not totally sure why, but whatever. But yeah, so that's kind of the sticking point of this, is that this book ends up being just like a big fuck you to like corporate overstepping. And if anything, that's, to me, more of a good reason to read this book. Maybe at your local library. Because that's how I got it. Yeah. But that is Catwoman of East End. A very interesting look into this character's history, the retooling of the character, as well as like corporate overreach and trying to get artists and writers to do what they want to do and not what they actually think is good for the story. So yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, in that case, why don't you tell people where to find us?
I can do that. You could go to Twitter, Twitter X, whatever it's called. Go there to at EIFNAR. It is where you can find us talking about stuff that might pertain to comics and/or video games and/or things. If we do that at the time. You can go to our Twitter page and yell at us about how much you love Catwoman. I'm into that. I want to talk to somebody about this story because like there's a lot of facets. You should also go to our iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, page, and you should go there and enjoy our show and like it. Do the subscribe-y thingy, whatever it is on YouTube. Click the bell. Is a bell still?
Yeah, it's a bell.
It's a bell. Cool. And then share with your friends. Just if you find this podcast in a dark alleyway, and it's like, eating a Big Mac still in the wrapper, and it's just like feasting on it, like ravenously, and it's very clear that like it shouldn't be fucked with. Like it's like a wild beast, like some horrible animal just escaped the zoo, and is just feasting on this burger. Share that with your friends. I'm sure they would like that. Maybe make sure that their hands are away from the thing, away from the podcast. Use only your ears or eyes. Yeah. You should also go to our friends at DJDane.com. That's the guy that does our music. DJDane.com. Go there, listen to his great tunes, and just like vibe out to them. Enjoy the streets while you listen to his songs. Maybe like listen to some cool music about life and how it affects you, man. That's the shit.
Sounds boring.
Oh.
I was hoping you were going to make him into a crime fighter or something.
Oh, that's good too. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, great. Yeah, do that one.
He's DJ Man and he breaks femurs. Using yeah.
Yeah.
Using vinyl records. Yeah.
Sure.
That's it for our show. Tune in next time for another Ecdesiast episode of Everything is Finally is Ruined. See ya.
Yeah.
Say it.